Hey guys, welcome back to Star Wars Timeline. Today I have a lovely guest, a painter, a makeup artist, and tattoo artist, a Star Wars fan, Roxana Barahona. Please introduce yourself and tell us what you're all about. What do you do professionally?
Thank you for inviting me. I am so happy to be here sharing with fans. My name is Roxana Barahona. I am from Costa Rica. It's a small country in Central America, but I have almost 2 years in Mexico City.
Mhm.
As you said, I am tattoo artist, art a teacher too, but I studied engineering too.
Mhm.
So I have some things mixed it up
Mhm.
here that I like. And I love Star Wars. Maybe I am not an expert, but I love it.
Yeah, it's I talk to Star Wars fans all the time. Now that I started my YouTube channel, I interact on all kinds of social media platforms, Facebook, and now I just started my Twitter account and TikTok. It's never too late or too early. People seem to come to Star Wars from all different generations and groups.
Yeah.
And it's so exciting to talk to people because for somebody, it's a lifelong passion. They've known it since 1977, the original movie came out. Some fans are just discovering it today and they're asking me, like, hey, Ben, what are some good books to read? Or which show
Yeah.
do you think I should start? It is so, so exciting. And I stumbled across your art because I was on social media. I went to one of the Facebook groups that I'm in, and the painting, which we will talk about, the Ahsoka one, I saw it immediately blew my mind. I'm like, oh gee,
Thank
I
you.
wish I wish I could talk to this artist, just pick their brain. As somebody who studied art myself, I have 7 years of figure drawing. I have a BA degree in traditional animation, the one that's hand drawn.
Wow.
Yeah, so I studied art, but eventually went into the graphic design. But it's always so exciting to see passionate artists create art for others as a commercial art, either as their craft or just for fun for themselves. And I just wanted to talk to you about it. And one of the first things that I read on your website when I actually went to your thing is that you have pioneered a makeup painting technique that comes from the kind of like portraiture and makeup art. How did you develop this technique?
Well, when I was little, I didn't have anything for paint, just a couple of
Hmm.
pencils. And a customer asked me a portrait, and I didn't have anything to paint.
Hmm.
But I was searching around my mother's things,
Hmm.
and I get some makeup, eyeshadows, eyeliners, and I try to use them for
Yeah,
that portrait. And I really liked how it looked,
yeah.
and I started with that, but was because I didn't have anything to paint.
So it
I
was
didn't have
actually
money.
it was a limitation. You were limited in what you
Yes,
could use. It's
yes,
interesting that you say it. Like I didn't expect that answer. I thought maybe you were experimenting or playing around with different tools. It's interesting how limitations make an artist more creative because you have to come around things and learn how to do things if you don't have access to all the paints, all the brushes, right?
yeah.
Wouldn't you say that limitations are good in a way?
Yeah, a lot of people say maybe makeup is too expensive,
Hmm.
but my mom's was so cheap, so I couldn't use it.
Hmm.
And I really love the effect that it gives in the paper on canvas.
Hmm.
And it started with that
Interesting.
because I didn't have anything, no money, no anything.
Hmm.
I came from a family of, we were 7 people in my
Hmm.
family,
Hmm.
so
Big
it
family,
was
right?
really hard.
Yeah, trust me, I'm very familiar with big families. I also come from south of Russia, which there is a lot
Yeah.
of Mediterranean cultures, the Caucasus. There's like Armenians, Azerbaijanians, Georgians. I come from that part of the world, which is very, very known to have big, big families. And another thing that I noticed on your website when I saw your portfolio, first of all, I have to say your website is really sharp. I like the design. It's very scrollable. It's very nice to look at things like whatever part of the website that I wanted to read about, like your biography or what kind of stuff that you
Yeah,
do, what medium you work. It's very clear, and I like that. And one of the first things that I
thank
also
you.
saw, aside from Star Wars paintings, is that you paint
Yeah.
celebrities, you paint animals. There's a lot
Mm.
of fantasy art you create. You also do fictional characters. What's your favorite subject matter to paint?
Well, I started as a portrait artist
Hmm.
because I love the face,
Yeah.
the expression of the eyes, the feelings, the movement. That is my love, the thing that I love most.
Hmm.
And well, I love even science fiction art, comics,
Hmm.
Japanese style, everything. I love everything.
Yeah. That's
But
nice. I'm also a huge fan of anime. Do you watch anime?
yeah,
So let me ask you
uh,
this: were you a fan of the Star Wars Visions that recently came out?
yeah.
You liked it?
The design
Hmm.
was interesting, but I need to learn more. There are
Hmm.
things that I don't like as much as I
Yeah.
would like.
That's what I'm
But
hearing from a lot of fans when it comes to the Star Wars Visions. And I think they created it in such a way that different episodes would be for different kind of audience. Even though it's all
yeah,
Japanese art, it's all animation, each one is so different from one another, right?
yeah,
There's something that I watched it here in my apartment with my younger brother. He also likes Star Wars, he likes anime, and there would be an episode which he didn't like, and I loved. It was like he would look at me,
yeah.
really? You enjoyed this episode? So difference of opinion even between brothers.
That is what art is about, to connect with different people.
Yeah.
And maybe one hate that chapter and
Hmm.
another liked it,
Hmm.
and that's good.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think variety is good because we are all different as people.
Yeah,
We see things differently. We have different culture, different upbringing. And it's funny that you mentioned Japanese culture, right? Because when you look even at their animation, is different concept, different cultural things which will not appeal to everybody. That's good. It makes Star Wars
yeah.
fans grow.
uh, Darth Vader,
Hmm.
a lot of people have has painted him
Hmm.
like Japanese style, and it's very interesting. That kind of lines and the strokes and the movement
Hmm.
is faster than American animation, I think.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. It's in a way Star Wars came back home because George Lucas himself was very much inspired by Akira Kurosawa, Japanese
Yeah,
film and culture. And when you look at Darth Vader's suit, you could make an argument he looks like a
yeah.
samurai in the future, right, with a lightsaber. So a lot of people make that connection. But you also, aside from doing art yourself, you also model. I've seen the photography on your website where you pose for your makeup art and for stuff like this. Would you say there's similarity between making a painting yourself and having makeup?
Yeah, because it's the same. It's a feeling that you want to express to another people,
Hmm.
and I don't know if I could call myself as a model,
Hmm.
because I don't know. I have a problem with that, but
Yeah.
I like the way that you could create in your face.
Hmm.
Sorry if I didn't understand your question,
No, you
but
understand perfectly. No worries.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting to create something in your face, in
Hmm.
your body, how
Hmm.
to express, and on papers and canvas.
So there is that
I really
connection.
like it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So you would say that with makeup, you can also tell a story. You can also create a
yeah,
character with the
yeah,
makeup. Hmm.
yeah. Thank you for helping me.
No
As
problem.
everybody could see, my native language is not
Hmm.
English, so I'm really trying.
No, no, you're perfect. By the way, how long have you studied English?
Maybe a year and a half,
Oh my God, are you
but a
serious?
lot of time ago. So
So right before we started recording, I mentioned to you, Roxana, that I'm originally from Russia. So I came to New York in 1996. I was a 14-year-old kid. And, of course, in Russian schools, they teach you mandatory courses. You could take Spanish or
yes,
German or English. So I took English. But I'm still, when I came here, nobody was learning it. I didn't know anything. I have to start from scratch. So, I had this big, big fright that I would never be
yeah,
able to speak fluent English and say
yeah.
sentences together. Oh my God, I was so scared. Trust me, I can relate to you on that.
Thank you.
Now let's talk a little bit about, I'm curious to find out about your earliest years and what inspired you as an artist. And one of the first thing I wanted to bring is that there is a huge section in the world of art as Latin artists. You have anyone from Antonio Berni from Argentina who did neorealism. You had Alberto Vargas, one of my favorite pinup artists. He's a Peruvian artist. Boris Vallejo, of course,
Yeah.
famous fantasy artist from Peru. And also, obviously, Frida Kahlo. She doesn't need any introduction. One of the most renowned Mexican painters of
Yeah.
all time. Anybody knows her, even if
Definitely.
you don't like art. I wanted to ask you, what were some of your earlier inspirations? What are some of the painters that you wanted to imitate when you were a young person?
The first one was Bob Ross.
Hmm.
He was from United States, but
Hmm.
he was a celebrity in Central America
Hmm.
because we haven't access to culture and a lot of things.
Hmm.
And I really enjoyed the way he paint. Looked
Hmm.
so easy. So it
Yeah.
was really fast that you could love him.
Hmm. And
And when I got at when
mhm,
I was a teenager, I really liked George Lucas, of
mhm,
course.
mhm,
The way that he create his world,
mhm,
the colors, the
mhm,
music in Star Wars
mhm.
was really amazing.
It was.
Yeah,
What's funny is when you looked at Bob Ross's videos, not only was the painting beautiful, and I absolutely agree with you, it feels like it's so easy to do. Like anybody could pick
yes,
up a brush and start painting today. But
yeah,
also his voice, and an artist is not just a person in my mind who understands the medium, like the painting, or the oils and canvas,
yeah,
but also a person who understands the psychology and the feeling of it. And when he talks, it's like he puts you almost in that state of meditation, right? And even though you're standing there,
yeah,
when
yeah,
you're looking at his programs, I also remember Bob Ross when I first came here to the country. We had cable TV, and I'm looking at his stuff. It almost feels like you're standing behind his shoulder and you're observing, and he's talking directly to you, like, "Oh my God, I want to paint mountains now!" Like, he made you so excited for art.
I think he was a performer too. He,
Absolutely.
he, I think the real artist
Hmm.
must be something, some kind of performance too.
Hmm.
The way you talk to the people, the way you treat them,
Hmm.
the way you show your art when
Yeah.
you're painting, when you talk
Hmm.
throughout the social networks, everything.
Hmm. Now, Roxana, please correct me if I'm mistaken, but I believe I also read it was that part of the website was in Spanish, but you also teach art, right?
Yes.
So, coming back to this, to Bob Ross and how he taught on screen, what do you feel is very important when you're trying to teach somebody the basics of art? What are some of the first lessons that you'd give them?
Well, the art must be so simple. And I think I really hate that about art.
Hmm.
It's that people, it's so egotistical
Hmm.
about their art
Yeah.
and so close minded.
Yeah.
They don't like to share anything. They don't like to have patience. They don't like to be respect people.
Yeah.
They always shout and I don't know how to say.
Hmm.
They got so angry if they don't like the art.
Yeah.
And I think he was so kind, so gentle.
Hmm.
And if you want to to your students
Yeah.
learn fast,
Hmm.
you need to be that kind and gentle.
So you need to be patient. You need to, start from the beginning. I think one of the most important lessons that I was taught in art school, I was drawing since I was a kid. My mom taught me. She's like very artistic. She finished fashion school. My father is a self-taught artist. But when I started learning art formally in a college, one of the most important lessons that my anatomy professor told me, he said, "Look, Ben, don't worry about your drawing. We were drawing anatomy, right? We have a model. She's
Yeah,
sitting, and we're painting, drawing." And he said, "Every artist has 1,000 crappy drawings inside of them. You just have to
yeah,
get them out of the way. It's a matter of practice. Don't be perfectionist. You don't need to get everything right the first time. Like you said, be patient and take your time, and
yeah.
it comes to you through experience."
right now it's really hard to be an artist
Yeah.
because in social networks you see artists posting every time almost 6 years.
Yeah.
Sorry, 6 times a
Hmm.
day.
Hmm.
So you feel so um,
It feels
so
crowded a little bit. There's too much of it.
yeah,
Hmm.
too much. And the artists think that if you want to draw maybe something like this,
Yeah.
you do it in seconds,
Yeah.
and that's a lie. You
Yeah.
have to be patient, to work for days, even
Hmm.
months,
Hmm.
in just one canvas.
Yeah. So I can't imagine when we're going to get to that conversation about Ahsoka painting. I'm pretty sure it was a huge, huge project. Now I slowly want to get us into talking about Star Wars. And I was curious to ask you, when were you first introduced to Star Wars? Were you a child or were you an adult? What is your earliest memory of watching, experiencing Star Wars?
Well, I have brothers, and one of the oldest,
Hmm.
he always was drawing Star Wars Death Star
Hmm.
and the stormtroopers. He
Hmm.
he loved to draw stormtroopers. So when I started to create art of Star Wars, was reminding something of him,
Hmm.
and looked so familiar.
Hmm.
But I started my university studies,
Hmm.
so I let a lot of years working drawing.
Hmm.
So when I came back, yeah, when I
Hmm.
came back as an adult,
Hmm.
my customers show me, see that saga, see the Clone Wars, see
Ah.
Mandalorian, see this, because they want that I draw, but they
Hmm.
want that I understand what I was drawing. So I sit and started to see Clone Wars, something about Ahsoka,
Hmm.
something about Darth Vader. Darth
Hmm.
Vader is the most loved of my clients.
We can see him sitting in the background there. Could you please bring
Yeah,
that painting a little bit up close and show us for a few seconds?
yeah.
I just want to
It's
see all the details on that one. When did you
it's a
finish that one? Is it recent work?
it's a print
Ah,
because
it's a print.
the
Uh-huh.
original was old,
Was so
but yes,
wow. Yeah. So
but
detailed.
all my clients love him.
If I were somebody like, I'm looking forward to getting a new place. I want to start decking it out as my YouTube channel grows. Have the whole setup, beautiful lights, painting over here. If I were a Star Wars fan asking you, hey, Roxana, could you please paint me this character or that character or popular scene from, the Clone Wars show? I would obviously want the artist to understand what they're doing because,
Yeah,
it's so important for Star Wars fans. It's not just a picture. We want the story behind it, right?
yeah. Because I love to translate everything into
Mhm.
colors,
Yeah.
and I investigate about Clone Wars, and Clone Wars has their color palettes.
Hmm.
If you see, for example, the Mandalorian, it's another color.
Yeah.
So I need to find the specific scene
Yeah.
to create
Hmm.
something, but not just the background,
Yeah.
the feeling of the character.
Hmm.
If he's angry, I need to change the colors to adapt in that moment, not just the background, the feeling.
Hmm.
Um, Even I ask to my customers what are their favorite colors, their personality,
Interesting.
to to mix everything.
Yeah. Before this podcast, my previous one was my favorite interview I've ever done. It's with the legendary Greg Hildebrandt. He has a career spanning over 60 years. Are you familiar with his work?
Yeah, it's
Right, so
amazing.
he's one
Yeah,
of the biggest contributors to Star Wars in general, and I was blown away when I found his work. And I also asked him a specific question about color that you're mentioning it, and he said, it was for him so important because color is what conveys that emotion. color is what creates all the drama on screen. If you want to manipulate emotions and make your client feel something for the painting, it's like, oh my God, I want the Darth Vader painting. You need to know to understand color theory. You need to understand what color to focus on. And also, when you mentioned the Mandalorian, it's funny because even when you look at the logo of the show, it looks green, right? It's like a rusted green color.
Yeah.
And when you look at different movies, the photography of films, like when we think Matrix, everybody thinks green. When you think about Mandalorian, you almost kind of think green. It has its own color palette, right?
Yeah, that's psychology.
Mm-hmm.
As the music in a Star Wars is a really important thing.
Yeah.
So I think the artwork of George Lucas is amazing because he thinks in everything. It's the color, it's the intention, it's the music, it's the position of the camera that helps a lot. For example, when Darth Vader appears, the camera uses to be placed.
It's under him, right?
Like,
yeah.
To make you feel a little small, and he big and strong.
I perfectly understand what you're saying. It's from that standpoint, I would say yes, George Lucas. It's a complete genius, and he was able to bring a group of very special artists together, right? Like the painters and cameramen to execute his vision. And every time you watch a Star Wars documentary, he always says like, he knows what he wants. No, I don't want this creature. I think I'm going to use this creature, not that art, not this piece, that one. He always knew what he wanted, and it was the artist who helped him bring it to life. And, coming back to painting as well, I've noticed that you also enjoy painting a lot of fantasy. And Star Wars, in a way, it is a fantasy in space. There's a lot more fantasy element in Star Wars than there is science fiction. And I wanted to ask you, Roxana, what do you think brings people to fantasy stories, whether it's a book or it's a TV show or a movie? What do people enjoy about fantasy?
Well, I think life is sometimes so hard, and you need to make your mind fly.
Yeah.
And you need to imagine another situations, another different of your day by day. I don't know how to say it. And it's just a mixture of your feelings. What do you like to be the life? What do you like to be the future, even the past? It's just our projection of what we would like to be the life.
That's a beautiful way of putting it. I really, really enjoy how you said it. It's because I read a lot of fantasy, aside from Star Wars, like science fiction and fantasy, obviously, Lord of the Rings. And I love Dungeons and Dragons, and the Dragonlance, all of that stuff.
I love to.
Really? And it's when you read fantasy, you're right. Especially that today we're living just such a hectic life. It's a job. I have to perform this for a client. This because I do graphic design. I'm a freelancer, constantly barraged with work. Sometimes you want escape. Sometimes you want to go to. And I think what I understand why sometimes Star Wars fans feel so angry when a movie or a TV show doesn't turn out the way they want it to be. It's understandable why a lot of people feel passionate because it's so important to them. Like you said, it's a different world for them that they like to go to after work, after, sometimes you have a problem with your boss or something like that, some trouble on the train, on the bus, you're commuting with people. You want to come home, and that's your little shrine. That's your little temple that you go to. It's like, oh my God, Star Wars. Another question that I wanted to ask you is that when it comes to your clients, what are some of the most popular requests of the Star Wars characters that people request you? And personally, which character do you relate to the most?
Well, as I said, Darth Vader, he's so iconic. People love him, the strong that he represents. And everything, I think he and lately, Ahsoka, she has a
I'm a
huge
fan.
fan. Yeah, yeah. Because as a woman, like love her
Yeah.
because shows another vision of a woman, of
Hmm.
being a woman in a universe of Star Wars.
Hmm.
Always, well, I think Star Wars, it's amazing how they show the woman is
Yeah.
strong, is different from another franchises.
Hmm.
And I think Ahsoka is one of the best and the most wanted characters now, right now,
That's awesome.
for that,
Yeah.
because she is a connection. Her story is a connection of a lot of important things of Star Wars, like Anakin, her, Mando, now Grogu.
Hmm.
She is a connection of a lot of the world of Star Wars.
Yeah. I remember in 2007 when the Clone Wars came out. First of all, George Lucas just finished the prequels. That trilogy was over. And for a period of time, we didn't know. He said, look, the Skywalker saga, it's over. I don't think there is any more Star Wars stories to tell. It's over. So we didn't know if we're going to get new material. And then 2 years after, we have the Clone Wars show. And in one of the first episodes, you see there's this young girl, and she's the student of Anakin. And my first memory was I was already studying film and animation. I was in college at that time. I was actually finishing. It was my senior year in college. And as I'm finishing, I'm looking at this young girl, and I said, "Gee, George Lucas, this new guy, this Dave Filoni guy, didn't know what they're doing." Even
Yeah,
though I remember a lot of because statistically more guys watch Star Wars
yeah,
than females.
yeah.
And I remember back in 2007, a lot of in my school here in New York City, School of Visual Arts, a lot of Star Wars fans were like, "Oh man, who is this girl, man? How come Anakin Skywalker has this student?" They didn't like her, right? But then gradually, season after season after season, as she grows, she gets more confident, and you really see that love that she shares with Anakin as her mentor, as a teacher, almost like older brother, right?
Yeah.
People started, even the most angry fans were like, "Oh, hold on!" People
her
stopped for a
her
moment.
wisdom,
Her
her
wisdom,
wisdom. Yeah.
and they started paying attention. They said, "Well, okay, man, that's really strong character. Now we have to pay attention." So eventually, more Star Wars fans
Yeah.
started embracing
And,
her.
and she says, "You will love me."
She's very cocky. She's confident, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very important to show in a young person, not just young girls. I think young person to show where you start in life. You're confident. You think you know everything, and then when you show your adversity and problem and a drama happening, and then how young people become adults. Now they have
Yeah.
experienced pain, they experience hardship, and you see that in the Ahsoka, right? From season 1 to season 7, you see the progression of character.
They show a range of feelings and failures and fights and everything, and that's why you start to love her,
Yeah.
because you see all the development of her.
Hmm. Roxana, since we don't have the painting in here, I'll basically like superimpose it on my side of the screen. When people watch
Yeah.
the video, they will be able to see this Ahsoka painting that completely just blew my mind. I wanted to ask
Thank you.
you a question about it. Who asked you, what was the commission? Who asked you to make it for you? And how did you prepare for that project? What did you have to strategize or think about to say, I'm going to make the best Ahsoka painting I can make?
Thank you. I really love that you loved it.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Well, that was a client from Florida, United States,
Hmm.
that he saw my work in a group.
Hmm.
So he contacted me, and I think he has maybe, he's older than us.
Hmm.
Maybe could be my grandpa.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
But he loves Star Wars.
Hmm.
And he says, I always wanted something that received me in my home and give me the strong, but
Yeah.
uh, maybe to remember when I was sad,
Uh-huh.
that I could that I need to forward, that I need to keep walking.
Yeah.
And we created that. So he wanted a mix of different scenes from Clone Wars, but I didn't have the idea of the feeling, of the movement, of everything in the drama. So I started to see Clone Wars to analyze what she likes, her feelings in that moment when he was fighting with Rex.
Yeah. Captain Rex is awesome. I love
Yeah,
him.
yeah. Her feelings, that the feeling that that he is a great partner for her, but the world was chaotic or chaotic.
Chaotic, yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to put her and Captain Rex in a very central position,
Yeah.
fighting against everything around him and her.
Yeah. You know what completely blew my mind is the storytelling in that painting. I remember when I started studying art, and all of my professors were talking about this artist's language, the stylistic language, that it's a conversation going on. And I couldn't understand that concept. What do they mean? You know, if you want a conversation, you talk to another person, or you watch a dialogue in a cinema, in a movie. But slowly and surely, I started learning that you could achieve storytelling by how you position elements on the canvas. You know, it's a color, it's a combination of color and composition, and strategically thinking about how you place things. And when I looked at that painting, it wasn't just the fact that it was Ahsoka that drew my attention. What drew my attention was you have these, because the Clone Wars, it took me many, many years to understand who is the main hero in that show. And of course, you see Anakin, you see Ahsoka, you see even Obi-Wan Kenobi. But the real stars are the clones, these soldiers that nobody thanks, that nobody puts a pedestal to them, a memorial to them. It's them who take this war on their shoulders. And in your painting, you see them, they are standing in the background. They're ready to do the job. And then you see on the other side of the painting, that little pattern that starts reminding us of the Empire. That these guys who fought for everything that was good and noble about the Republic will slowly, gradually become this evil empire. And then in the center of it all, right, you look at Ahsoka, but she's not dominating the composition. She's not there to say, no, pay attention just to me. I am the hero. She's in the center of it all.
Yeah.
It completely blew my mind. It was such an interesting narrative theme going in that painting.
Thank you. I really love that another fans see that, because I wanted to something, a mixing of that the evil and the good characters in the same space. But when the customer gave me the essence that he wanted, the photos, I saw the soldiers just in how to say, they were static.
Yeah.
Just
they were standing in line, right? Just like this.
Yeah. Exactly. And I wanted to put some of them moving and trying to put in the face in the battle. That was my adding of that, to include them in the fight as people, faces. I think Roxana, you now went into the heart of the Clone Wars show. To me, honestly, I was a fan who was very disappointed with the Star Wars prequels. I didn't enjoy those movies when I saw them in theaters. I was so excited when they came out, and I went into movie theaters and I paid the ticket for each one of them. They just weren't for me. But when I started watching the Clone Wars, I was absolutely blown away by its story, because I always take story first. And then the action, lightsabers, spaceships, cool-looking aliens. To me, it's the human story that attracts me the most. And when we started watching the Clone Wars, what George Lucas was able to do is that he said, look, here's this big tragic war, and the Republic has created these clone soldiers that all look the same,
right there, and they're grown for one purpose only, to wage war. And what you see in the Clone Wars happily starts happening. You have Echo, you have Fives, you have Captain Rex. They start giving themselves names. They start decorating their helmets. You see the humanity come out. These things that were created as soldiers. He shows that no, we're not all the same. We're brothers, but we're different. It's such an important aspect of Clone Wars.
It's a position as a team.
Yeah.
Not just her as a protagonist of everything. I wanted a team.
Roxana, now we have more stuff coming in. We have the Book of Boba Fett, which is coming December 29th. I anticipate you probably will get a lot of clients asking for that, for like, oh, what Boba Fett. Boba Fett should be next one. What do you personally, as a Star Wars fan, expect from that show? What would you like to see?
Of that movie?
Of that the show, the Boba Fett. What are you personally most interested in?
Well, I don't know a lot about that character, but it's without a doubt the best, or one of the best characters in Star Wars. And I would like to learn all the story behind the suffering, behind, because I saw all the Mandalorian saga, and I just saw a little bit in the end.
Yeah, there's a little scene at the end.
Yeah, I want to see the connection between the whole story of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian saga. I would like to see something between both.
It's something that they cover in the books, and they show you because I review and I read a lot of Star Wars books before Disney purchased Star Wars. I've been reading them for at least like 20 years. Since I was like in high school, like, oh my God, I need more stories. But not everybody reads the books. A lot of fans just enjoy watching stuff like movies and shows. And this is the perfect opportunity for them to show, like, this is Boba Fett now, but this is where he came from. This is the origin. This is how he started, right? Because we see him as a child in the Clone Wars show, right? We see young Boba Fett. Remember? So it will be now interesting to see him as an adult. My next question for you is, how familiar are you with Star Wars legendary painters? There's too many to name. We have somebody like Cam Kennedy, who drew some of the original Boba Fett comic books. He's a Scottish comic book artist. You had somebody like Paul Yule, who illustrated a lot of Star Wars books, and he focused specifically on ships, like the X-Wings and the Starfighters. And you have Dave Dorman, who also did a lot of paintings for children's books like the Young Jedi Knights. And when I looked at your art style, obviously not to compare the two and say like, similarity, but I saw some kind of inspiration, some kind of techniques with the brush or coloration. I was wondering, are you familiar with any Star Wars painters? Do you look at their work before you paint your own stuff?
To tell the truth, no, but I really follow them.
Yeah.
Because they are amazing to see and to watch their sketches, the way that they create the characters. Once I draw a mini canvas of Death Star, and one of them say in Instagram, I like it.
Yeah.
And I was so mad. It was an honor for me, because they are just an icons of art doing that. But I would like to learn more about them, of course.
Yeah. And beyond those legends, which to me, these guys are important, because once again, you have the creator, George Lucas, who launched the saga. And then you have all these artists throughout the years who interpret, and they have their own vision and their own language and their own ideas into it. And slowly it started growing and growing and growing. And George Lucas started saying, at one point it grew larger than I expected, because I have my Star Wars that I created over here, and I have all these creative people, writers and artists, who also helped grow this, franchise and make it great. But moving away from Star Wars, I also saw that you do a lot of fantasy art, which is not Star Wars. Could you talk a little bit about that? What kind of commissions people ask you? Is it from fantasy literature or other fantasy shows like Game of Thrones, or now they just started Wheel of Time? What kind of things are interesting to you when it comes to fantasy, and what do the clients ask you to paint for them?
Well, my clients are almost from science fiction.
Mhm.
They love Predator, Alien,
Mhm.
Beetlejuice. They're a mix of pop culture,
Mhm.
Japanese culture.
Mhm.
So I get commissions from people that love Alien, Predator, movies, cult movies.
Mhm.
It's um, uh, uh, um, it's a collection of a world of things that they. Sorry, I lost the idea.
No problem. No, we were talking about, I asked you about the fantasy uh, um, art in general, what clients ask for, what is popular, but also what are you interested in fantasy? Like, what makes you excited to paint fantasy? What kind of maybe books or characters that you personally like?
Well, I really love Blizzard.
Hmm.
Some things of video games too.
Hmm.
For the movement or the way they use textures or colors,
Hmm.
but even the story that they use. For example, I love Final Fantasy. It's a video game.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan.
I'm a big fan of Final Fantasy,
Mhm.
especially seventh and eighth.
Eight
Seventh
is my
was
favorite one. Thank you, Roxana. Fate is the best Final Fantasy. Oh my god, I love it.
which is your favorite?
Eight.
Eight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love it because they mixed history
Hmm.
with fantasy,
Hmm.
and they create something different. For example, in Final Fantasy VIII, they use Cerberus, Shiva,
Uh-huh.
uh, mythical
Odin.
creatures,
Hmm.
Odin.
Hmm.
Yes. So I love when you could help to the new generations to
Hmm.
learn that
Hmm.
kind of story from ancient cultures,
Hmm.
but you bring it fresh and different.
100%. You just read my
Yeah.
mind. It's you expressed it so well. My introduction to role-playing games in general was
Yeah.
when I was in Russia. So we didn't have translated games. You either had games in Japanese or English. And all the kids, we would sit down, we would try to figure out what does.
Guessing which.
Yeah. So obviously, games with heavy story and a lot of text, I couldn't understand. So when I came here, it was my 15th birthday, and my parents bought me a PlayStation, and one of the first games that I got was Final Fantasy VII. And just like yourself, I was wondering, okay, so they have these sometimes like a steampunk idea or Japanese anime, but then they have traditional folklore and mythology like Odin and Norse mythology or
Yeah.
Indian mythology, right? And stuff like this, but also mixed with like medieval European stuff. And for many, many years, I was asking myself, where does that come from? Because I
Mhm.
always like to understand the origins of things. Like my very first question to you, Roxana, was, about your past and where your beginnings were as an artist. I always like to go to the root of things. And only after many, many years, I figured out that a lot of Japanese game developers were influenced by Dungeons and Dragons,
Yes.
right? That were released
Yes.
in the 60s and 70s in America. And then I was like, oh, Gary Gygax, in a way,
Mhm.
created Final Fantasy. And when you look at artists, Japanese artist Yoshitaka Amano is, one of my favorite
Mhm.
illustrators of all time. He's the guy who would design these Japanese stylized characters, and later on they would put them in the video games. Even this guy was influenced by something that came before him, you know?
Yeah, and those books were influenced for um, some books of different culture, ancient cultures.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
So
mythology, folklore, yeah.
yeah, so that's why I really love to that kind of topics, video
Hmm.
games, science fiction, and I think all my customers see that
Yeah.
throughout my networks,
Hmm.
and they ask me that because they know that I will draw happy
Yeah.
with my heart because
Yeah.
I really love. I understand the story, their characters, everything that I would like to share with my art.
Mhm. That's awesome. Yeah, it's definitely. I was so fortunate to come across your gallery because I see a lot of heart and a lot of passion. Roxana, moving away now from you as an artist, and just wanted to ask you a question as a person who enjoys popular media and stuff like that. In the current day, do you have modern fantasy or sci-fi shows that you're watching, or maybe a movie that you recently went to see, or a book? What kind of stuff excites you today, just as somebody who enjoys reading all that stuff as a fan?
Well, I really love horror histories.
Hmm.
I like them. I couldn't say a name because there are a lot,
Hmm.
but I like maybe I could say all the thrillers
Hmm.
and psychological movies.
Hmm.
I like to watch Japanese animation too.
Hmm.
Some projects. I because I think it's important that you see the way every culture see their life.
Yeah.
When you see a Russian movie,
Hmm.
they they create another
Hmm.
scenario.
Hmm.
When you see an Indian movie, their vision of the movement, the body, the life, the color is different.
Hmm.
So I like to watch movies from every country if I can,
Yeah.
because I don't have a lot of time for to myself.
Hmm.
But I really love to understand culture.
Yeah.
And I try to, when I have time, to learn about that
Hmm.
throughout the music, the
Hmm.
movies, the books,
Hmm.
everything like that.
That's awesome. One of the recent movies that I personally saw was Dune, and I took my brother, his
Yeah.
wife, to see it. She's Colombian, and a bunch of our friends. So we went, and I was the guy who read the Dune book, and they didn't. And we're sitting in movie theaters, and I was wondering how much are they going to understand? Are they going to enjoy it? So I was worried if they're going to like it. And everybody,
Yeah.
of course, came away from movie theater, and Denis Villeneuve, the Canadian filmmaker, he knocked it out of the park. I don't know if you've seen it, Dune.
I need to see them. See them.
It just blew my mind. It's
It's,
so good, and also
people said
visually.
people said that it's better the book
Mhm.
than the movie. Are you agree?
And no, I can't say that because it's different. Because book always gives you more texture. It always gives you more context. It always gives you more what the characters thinking in their head. When you go to see a movie, obviously, even if it's like 3 hours long, it's not enough space to put everything in there. So I think
Yes.
what he did very, very smartly, he's a very smart filmmaker. He said, look, okay, I'm not going to be able to do everything. I want people to watch my movie and go see it and go read the book. So what
Yeah.
he did was he focused on the most important things, like in your Ahsoka painting. He said, okay, I can't tell the entire story. He
Yeah.
almost treated the entire movie as a painting. He said, I'm going to give you these key moments which are focused on emotional components. What I absolutely loved about this movie, it doesn't look or feel like a Hollywood blockbuster. Like, you go in, you have your popcorn here. It's just, oh my God, all this action. And then you forget it the next day. When you go in, I would personally recommend it for you to watch Roxana because it feels like a moving painting. Because with each shot, he's trying to capture your feelings. He's trying to tell you something that sparks your imagination. You're like, I gotta go read the book. That to me, that
I
was my impression.
I think the best movies are those who give you the opportunity to think and create by yourself,
Yeah,
not telling everything.
yeah,
That's so commercial.
yeah.
Yeah, I need to see that movie.
Yeah, a lot of modern filmmakers, because they're not very well educated, very well formed, how to
Yeah,
shoot a film. It's all on the surface. It's all eye candy. You look, it's like CGI graphics, stuff explode, and then
totally,
right,
totally.
and then you forget it the next day. And I wanted to bring something up also when ask you a question when you said you like watching world cinema. Have you watched any like Russian films at all? Anything you could remember?
Well, not names,
Hmm.
but the feeling that they produce on myself,
Hmm.
so strong. and sometimes sad, because I think Russian see the life as a fighter, but they are a little dark about the life of themselves, for the war, for the climate,
Yeah.
for the color of the sky in Russia. But I really like how they look like fighters, medieval fighters,
Yeah.
in everything, even in the modern things. They want to control everything throughout their bodies, but they show the life so cruel and rude.
There's
I
definitely a
see.
component of that. I would agree with you. There's definitely, obviously, when you talk about a culture, it's going to take you 25,000 hours to even begin to talk about it. It's a big topic, but I know exactly what you're saying, that aspect, that component of being always severe and always showing the tough side, right? And we're capable, we're warriors, we're able to do this. And it reminds me of your thing that you mentioned earlier, that it's very important to watch cinema from different parts of the world. One of the movies that I saw here when I first came to America was the Spanish film Abra los Ojos. Have you seen that one? It scared me. It was so powerful and so different from everything before that I watched. It's basically like a Matrix story without the special effects, right? I assume, have you watched that movie? No.
Yeah.
Right. So when you follow the main character's journey, he begins in this place and he loves this woman. I believe her name is Sophia in the film, right? She has this lover, and then something tragic happens and he goes here, and then he's lost. He doesn't know what is reality and what is not. It was such a powerful way to tell a story from a person from a different country who speaks a different language than me. And I didn't watch it in English. I'm like, no, I'm going to put subtitles and I'm going to watch it in Spanish. Like, I need the full experience.
I love that. Yes, because in language, you could hear the feelings of a culture. For example, we as a Latin people love to move, to dance, that colorful everything, but we are so tragical about everything that happens in our countries.
Yeah.
Because when there are countries when you do have a lot of access of education, of culture, you need to put your heart in the small moments in your life.
Yeah.
So you enjoy that moment. You don't have a lot of hopes of the future.
I know 100% once again what you're saying. Yeah. I know. I was in Mexico in 2015. It was my father's birthday. And we went, of course, you go, there is a resort. They all speak English. But people were absolutely wonderful there. It was my best experience to being outside in a different country. And me and my brother, we said, look, we need to go off the resort. We need to see the actual culture. We need to see the people. We went to Chichen Itza. We went to all these different places. And when you see the people outside the resort, and you see these Mayan Native American children sitting there and carving masks, and that's the only access they have, that's the only money they can make, then you begin to understand how privileged you are. I'm like, oh my God, these kids are just trying to earn a little bit of cash over here, and that's all they live by. For them, entertainment is important. For them, storytelling is important. Like we talked about early in the beginning, something like Star Wars or something different, similar stuff like this is very important to go to look forward to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, when I saw The Mandalorian, there are, when it's Cara Dune, the actress, we could see throughout her a lot of Latin women, because she passed throughout a lot of hard things.
Yeah.
And she looks, her face, she looks so tough for that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the best things that I love from Star Wars, that you could put your culture in a small places. The Russians, for example, the Mandalorians are so strong and their pride. And Cara Dune, a lot of women that suffers throughout the war and look so strong.
Mhm.
And you can see even in
Strong but
Grogu,
very beautiful too, right? She has the
yeah,
feminine side, but she's also like, don't mess with me.
yeah,
Gina Carano,
even
beautiful
even
woman.
throughout
Mhm.
Grogu, the childish, the powerful thing, the wisdom, the legacy of their family,
Mhm.
everything is really important.
Mhm. Roxana, before we part ways, I had just a couple of questions for you, two questions left. But before we do that, I just wanted to thank you for coming over and speaking to me. And I can now, with all confidence, say that your English is 100 times better than my English was when I first came to the country. It was super fun to talk to you. And I hope that a lot of more Star Wars fans will discover your art through this video. I'll put all the links there down below so people can check out your art. Now, two last questions that I had for you. First is, what do you think makes a great artist? What is the difference between raw talent and hard work?
You need to be persistent.
Mhm.
You need to try to create another option to see the life, the
Mhm.
simple life, and open a window to the people, uh, to help them to breathe, to have hope throughout your artwork.
Mhm.
And I think that is.
Mhm. And my last question, of course, we're all about Star Wars here. It's a Star Wars channel. Big Ahsoka fan over here. What do you think is the most powerful and important thing that George Lucas was able to create with Star Wars?
Oh my God, it's everything. Yes, the way that he created the story, the way that he presented,
Mhm.
the palette, the music, it's everything.
Mhm.
He did culture,
Yeah.
he did history with their artwork. I
Mhm.
think you could see a lot of movies, but when you see something on George Lucas, you know he was. It's the feeling, it's a sublime way of uh, present the things.
Mhm.
It's it's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot to explain.
I would say that, to me, to this day, I think the most special thing about Star Wars will always be the original trilogy that he has created. The
Yeah.
original three films that I grew up with as a kid, episode 4, 5, and 6. Obviously, I'm biased because, that's my childhood. There's a lot of memories attached to that. But I think Star Wars as a saga, as a franchise, is so important today. And I think will remain very, very important 50 years from now because people always come back to it and they see pieces of themselves. They see
Yeah.
pieces of that reflect our real world and real culture. Because what do you have in Star Wars? You have love, you have tragedy like war, you have loss and suffering, and you have something beautiful. He takes all the important aspects of things that our ancestors were talking about thousands of years ago, right? The Greek classical hero motif that every young
Yeah.
person must become strong and self-realized young man, and every woman needs to make her own steps in life, right, and become strong and face adversity and stuff like that. All the most important themes that touch our hearts, George Lucas was able to relate. Roxana, once
Yeah,
again,
I'm agreeing.
thank you so much. What are your last words for the fans? And please remind everybody the websites where we can reach you and look at your art. And once again, I'll put all the links in this video.
Thank you so much for your time and to be patient with my English.
Mhm.
And the people that see this interview, sorry for my mistakes, but I will learn more to the next if you want to invite me again. And if you want to see my work, you can go to www.roxanaboarts.com, or you can see my Instagram and Facebook and TikTok as Roxana Bo Arts.
Mhm. Well, folks, here we are. We had this awesome podcast. Thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate your time. I hope that you will go and check out Roxana's links. I was honestly blown away when I saw Ahsoka, and then link after link, picture after picture, all other stuff that she does outside of Star Wars is phenomenal stuff. I'm pretty sure you will guys be very excited. The Book of Boba Fett, this is one artist that you could run to. It's like, I want my next painting to be painted by Roxana. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, do all that YouTube chats. It will greatly help us both. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Thank you so much.